Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Crafted Edge podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Tippy with Tippy Customs, and I'm going to let our other guys introduce themselves. If you don't know us already, Dylan.
Hey everyone, this is J.W. Terrier with Boot State Forge. Welcome to the Crafted Edge.
Hey guys, Don Watson from Don Watson Knives from the state of Florida. We have a special guest. Our first guest on the podcast. I'd like to bring Eric and Keven from Ameribrade on. And we're going to hear about their story, how they got started making grinders. So welcome, Eric and Keven. Thanks for coming on the show.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for having us.
We're excited to be here.
Good deal.
So
Good deal.
I guess tonight's show is from coast to coast since we got Florida and California. Started the two losers here in Louisiana. I guess we're just low men on the totem pole, but we're sure glad to have you guys on the show tonight.
Absolutely.
And, where at in California are y'all, or do y'all want to share that information?
Yeah. It's all public information anyways, but we're in Southern California. So
all right.
We're in the high desert, which is like pretty rural as far as California goes. It's a couple acre plots, just
dirt roads.
Yeah. We're like
it sounds like my kind of place.
Yeah, halfway in between San Diego and Los Angeles, but more inland.
Okay.
I got you.
So, yeah.
Cool deal.
Halfway between the coast and Las Vegas.
There you go. Yeah,
Okay.
that's one way of putting it.
Desert?
Too, yeah.
A lot of desert area?
Yeah, all desert.
A lot of desert. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yep.
Now, are you guys from down there, or?
Yeah, we both grew up within like an hour of here.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice.
Which is why
Nice.
everyone asks why we do business here. And it's like, well, it's where all of our family's at. So,
Yeah.
I think I asked you that question about 3 years ago. What? What are you down there for, Blake?
yeah.
I'll tell you, people say like, it must be difficult to do business in California, and we don't know otherwise being from here. But we recently have some commercial property and starting to do more business type stuff. And the amount of time that gets just sucked up with not business friendly stuff in California, it eats days at a time away of filling out paperwork and the city stopping by and writing you code violations for not filling out this form that the state wants. And it's just ridiculous. So it's starting to get frustrating.
Yeah, business.
So there's a lot of commercial property here in Southern Louisiana, the Lafayette area. So if you want to go ahead and just come on down, the food's good.
We drive
I
around
was 120 pounds when I moved here, and I'm not anymore. That's not the truth. I was fat when I got here, but they kept me this way. So
we visited Louisiana on one of the drives to home from one of the shows. It's a cool place. I love it.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of when you're driving around, a lot of places, California has such a variety here. A lot of the places you see, it's like, oh, this looks like this city in California. This looks like this city in California. But what was cool about Louisiana was like nothing in California looks like that. It's actually very different. It's fun to see something unique.
And I'll tell you, I can
There's
do
stuff will eat you out here too.
Oh yeah.
Even though I don't go as much as I want to, I really enjoy ocean boats and ocean fishing. So if I were to ever move somewhere, I need to be along some sort of coast ocean type setup. So Louisiana's up there.
Or Florida.
We got you covered.
Yeah, Florida. I can do Florida.
Yep.
Texas, I think, might be too humid for us. I know Florida gets humid as well, but
Everything down.
just like the coast is different. I think I could jive with the Florida coast.
Yeah. We'd love to have you down here, man.
Absolutely.
Big tool. So I guess if it's all right with everybody, I'm gonna start out with my biggest question that's been on my mind since I first heard of you guys. How did y'all end up getting connected to the knife industry?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to go back to all the way how we started making grinders.
Why don't you tell the audience, tell us, and give us a little backstory about how you guys started doing, a little background on you, Eric and Kevin, and how y'all came together as a team and started doing what you guys do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fun because it's so weird how little tiny, what are seemingly insignificant decisions in your life end up really making huge course corrections and guide huge part to your life, even though it's some silly little coincidence. So I went to school for engineering. Like I said, we both grew up about an hour from here, and my first job out of college was General Atomics, aeronautical company up here in the high desert, where they manufacture the Predator drones, UAVs, and that's where me and Kevin met.
Yeah.
So
nice.
And then Kevin's background before that, he had a little bit more variety before working at General Atomics.
That's correct.
Oh man,
I'm just joking. I was trying to be awkward. Yeah, no, yeah, you know, it's funny because we're the same, but the opposite. There's like so much you can go into, but I tried doing the school thing and just wasn't for me. So after high school, tried doing the college thing, wasn't for me. But I've always been decent at making stuff and have more confidence than I should. So I always jump in feet first into things, and I fell into CNC machines and kind of fabricating. So I've done race vehicle fabrication, off-road fabrication, and industrial, you know, CNC machining, stuff like that. And that's how I wound up at General Atomics doing machining. And that's where me and Eric met. So yeah. I was doing machining. He was a engineer, and similar age, similar interest into off-roading and stuff, and started hanging out.
Yeah, so the first department we were in together, we both were in tool manufacturing. So in what we refer to as a tool isn't just like hand tools or even power tools. It's just anything used to help you make a plane. It can be an assembly fixture. It can be a lamination mold. It can be anything. So Kevin actually started off as a tool designer before he went into CNC programming. So we were both designing tools, but then he wanted to pursue more of the machining side of things, more of his background. But so we kind of ended up where I would design tools and he would machine them. So we kind of always had that relationship where we talked about how to make stuff. I would design it and draw it, and then he would help make it a reality. So we were already doing that on a day-to-day basis. And we would kind of talk about the possibility of doing some sort of business venture together. We're always making little side projects. One of our first ones was what we called the Amaze board, which I still think has potential.
It's got potential, so don't steal it. I'm going to patent this. This is our official release to the public. But it was a balance board that we would, it was made out of wood and stuff, but you'd have to balance on it. So it'd take a lot of physical ability and concentration and stuff. But then you put a marble in the center of it, and you would have to move the marble through a maze
that we machined into the wood.
Yeah, while you're balancing that board.
We made like 50 of them, sold them.
Sold them to coworkers and stuff.
Yeah, but then so we were always just kind of dabbling with little things like that.
Yeah.
But and then we, like he said, we were into off-roading. I couldn't really afford to have an off-road vehicle. I was newly married, right out of school and stuff. Off-roading's expensive, so
yes,
and the tools to do it. So I did more woodworking. Woodworking tools were a little more, you know, you naturally can fall into it a little easier. You know, if your dad's got a chop saw and you're building skateboard ramps for yourself, you're kind of familiar with wood, and you can go to Home Depot to get materials and stuff. So I kind of naturally fell into woodworking, and kind of sparked a friendship with a gentleman at work who also was into woodworking. His name was Reggie Tomerlin, and he was at the time in his mid-70s. He was in like a working retirement where he worked at the same company as us, kind of like as a, I don't know, consulting role with his experience, because he used to be the president of engineering for Northrop back in
70s and 80s.
Oh, wow.
80s, yeah. On the B-2.
Yeah, the B-2 stealth bomber project. He was the president of engineering.
Yeah, so he liked me and Kevin, and kind of wanted to mentor us. And he was getting into blacksmithing and wanted a 2x72. And he was always keeping an eye out for tools for me because he liked helping me with my woodworking. Like he bought me a drill press off of Craigslist that we still use for drilling all the holes for all of our shipping crates for the grinders. So that drill press he bought for us is still in production. And so when he wanted a grinder anyways, he knew I could probably use one too. So he said if I designed it for him, he would cover the cost of materials and things to build one for me along at the same time. So we still got that one. We built 4 of them actually, because we brought in a couple other people who were interested in the project. And so that's how the first 4 kind of came to be, just out of the need of our friend Reggie, who was getting into blacksmithing, and then just the general need that I had for it for woodworking, and just they're so useful for everything. I didn't have any knife specific interest at the time. So but then Kevin saw it.
Hey, when I saw it in a belt grinder in any sort of industrial application, there's belt grinders of some sort. In the industry I was in, Burger King was kind of the big name, the golden standard in the automotive racing industry. And at the time, I couldn't afford a used Burger King, so I was like, "Oh, this is cheaper than a used Burger King." And I think it could do some cool stuff. So that's why we liked it. And then we're like, hey, maybe if we like it and can use it, maybe other people would like it, use it. And again, kind of with that mentality, for whatever reason, we still don't know why. We're just making stuff to try to sell for fun.
I'm not sure there was a real clear vision of values guiding us or anything like that. It's just you have this little inkling. We did have core values about we're capitalists at heart, and we there's this ingrained American dream, I think, if you're a patriot of some sort, and you just self-reliance and never happy just working towards someone else's goal when you could be working towards your own. So I think that's why we were dabbling in the first place, and this was just another thing that seemed like it had promise, a little more serious than a maze board. It's like, oh, this actually solves a problem for people. It's not just a toy. It's this is actually a cool tool that
at the time we just thought let's make the most affordable one. That's what would be very useful to a lot of guys, is make something extremely affordable, cheaper than even a used Burger King, is kind of my vision.
And we fell into the same trap a lot of people fall into. We thought we could do it a lot cheaper even than we could. Even when we've adjusted our goal, goal isn't simply to make the cheapest. Affordability always comes in as an element still, but we've realized that that's not always the best thing that people really need. There's other people that can do really cheap stuff better.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to be the cheapest, because you can go to Harbor Freight and get a $50, belt grinder.
Yeah.
And then if you say, well, it's not the best, well, then it's the cheapest though. So what do you want? Do you want the cheapest, or do you want the best?
Right. Here's the deal, we crack jokes about Harbor Freight, but my first knife, 15, 16 years ago, I ground it on a 4x36 belt grinder from Harbor Freight.
Yep.
And last week, I still use that grinder to shape handles on. So I think I got my $40 out of it. It's like, now it wobbles a little bit, and if you get too close, you might lose some skin. But it's still running. It's still good, doing a good job. But you're right. I mean, that's the thing. There's people that can do things cheaper, but that doesn't necessarily meet the needs for what you're aiming for. So
which is
that's cool.
Along the lines of one of the things we've stumbled upon, trying to me and Eric are good at trying to learn ourselves and what makes us happy and what are our true morals and stuff like that. But it's if someone goes and talks trash on Harbor Freight, well, it's what are you comparing it to? One of the things that really frustrates us is when someone says, oh, this brand or this is the best. And you're like, the best is subjective, because if you can't afford anything besides a $40 Harbor Freight grinder, and a $40 Harbor Freight grinder will help you make this month's rent, that's the best possible thing ever to you right there. So
absolutely.
Best is very subjective.
Yeah. So that's why
I agree. Absolutely.
I don't know. I hate if we say this and then someone points out a contradiction in our marketing, but we always try to avoid any language like that. We don't speak in a lot of absolutes. We try to be pretty reasonable in any of our claims, because time anybody says this is the best, the only way, that just raises red flags to us, because that's such a difficult conversation to have. Basically, we just try to find our feeling of what's the best compromise of what gives you the best experience, the best for your money. And that's a hard thing to find that we always have to adjust to, because there's our opinion of what that is, and then over time you have to adjust course based on the feedback we're getting consistently from people. Like, well, we thought this was the best, but apparently 90% of people disagree, so let's change.
Yeah. And that's funny that it kind of semi came up, but from those beginning days of making those, first few grinders, and then the next thing we did is, okay, we thought people would enjoy this, so what are we going to do? I had a credit card with $10,000 on it, and I said, okay, I've got 10 grand. Let's take 10 grand and build as many grinders as we can, and then we'll sell them and just see where that goes. Like, I'm confident we'll make the money back. So that's what we did. We sold them, and then we took all that money and built more, sold them, and we just kept doing that over and over again. But from where we started to now has been that exact conversation is, why should you make certain products? How should you make them? How much value or quality or whatever should you put in it? And it's that all of those choices are what makes a company. That is every one of those choices. And it's not right for everyone. We could make a grinder that costs 10 times as much as this, and could be nicer by some standards, but this is our compromise. And it was funny trying to make the cheapest grinder, and then certain people online or customers would be like, oh, well, the grinder's got this problem. And we're like, yeah, it's because that's the cheapest way to do it. So
we know, but it's not like you're telling us something new. But
so we accidentally shifted course away from the cheapest grinder, because people kind of, I'm not sure what the right word is. They kind of like, oh, if you guys want to see nice, I'll show you something nicer. So then, like, to show people we could do something nicer, we kind of slowly made it nicer over time, within scope of not just going completely crazy.
You still have the tension of people also asking for stuff to be cheaper, pulling you down too. So it's like you have a push and pull, and you just try to
find that balance
between.
Eric, y'all don't make the traditional grinder anymore, do you?
No, that classic welded frame.
Yeah, the classic.
No.
Yeah,
actually, we can't bring ourselves to throw away. We've got baskets full of the parts.
I think we have enough parts for 100 to make 100 more of those classic frames.
Oh man!
And what's very interesting is
my goodness,
the classic design was meant to be the easiest to make with generic tools.
Yeah, because at the time we didn't have the equipment we have now. Like I said, we designed it to make it ourselves with the equipment we had, and I was still at the point where I was having other people buy me drill presses, so I couldn't design stuff to be machined, and all that had to be fabricated with a saw and a welder.
Yeah, it was like the whole thing could be made with a drill press, a chop saw, and a welder. Was and some hand taps. That was the whole first one, just because that's what we had.
Might be in luck right here, but
so I've thought about,
but you have to make compromises to meet those. Like, if that's the problem you're solving for yourself, then you make compromises along the way. So eventually, once that wasn't the limitation anymore, it's like, well, just leave that in the past. We don't have to deal with those problems anymore. We've got better tools now. It was a great way to get started. People loved it. It's still serving a lot of people really well. And what's funny is we still hold ourselves to a pretty high standard of reverse, fitment, where
compatibility.
Reverse compatibility.
Yeah.
Almost everything works on both.
Yeah. Which it's gotten tricky at some points, but we either made it happen and or make exceptions if someone, there's only like one product, I think, some of the work rest.
Yeah, we tell people, if you still want it, we have to weld the bracket in a different spot. So email us.
Some of the specialty work rests we make. But yeah, we have enough parts to make 100 of those. I thought about I was like, should I just finish these off and sell them or raffle them off, or we can't throw away the parts, or I was like, I don't know if I should just kit them up and sell them to people so they can weld them up and like a DIY kit for these 100 of them.
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, why not, man? I mean, there's a lot of young kids out there would love to Love to have a.
There's some old folks out there that'd love to have it too.
Yeah, Jay.
I'm gonna send y'all
one.
Y'all are getting Louisiana. I'm gonna let y'all come look at my grinder. So yeah, it was built in I think 1978.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was built in 1977, so if that tells you anything. It's made out of C-channel and oil filled pipe.
All right.
And weighs about 300 pounds. And it's mean.
Pretty rusty.
It was the original home built grinder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My mentor built it. He actually gave it to me the first day he met me. That's a whole nother story. You have to go back and watch one of our introduction, our first episode, because that whole story's in there. But I don't know if he was just like, I'm gonna see if this kid really wants to make knives, or if he just like, I'm just gonna be mean to somebody today. I don't know. But I've been using it for 15 years, so
yeah, man.
Almost every knife I've ever made has been made with that grinder. But yeah, it's brutal.
Run it as long as it'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Well, we've gone through a few motors already, so we just keep going. Just put something new on it and keep going.
Yeah, the motors are the biggest part that people don't realize. That's one of the things that got us early on when we didn't realize how much stuff costs. That's why one of the main reasons we still sell it without the motor, just so people can see how big of a portion of the cost the motor is. It's like, look, like,
oh yeah,
the motor and speed controller is the majority of it. So, and
what motor y'all use, Eric?
We don't. That's a hard thing to answer. I could tell you what we have right now, but the problem is, COVID really made us realize how you can't rely. If you don't control it in-house, you can't rely on one company.
Yep.
Right.
Have all your fate like dependent on them. So we try not to have anybody be like, "Oh, I want the Ameribrade because of the motor they use." We want you to use it and know that we're going to stand behind whichever motor we use. But right now we use either Baldor or WEG.
Yep. That's why I have a WEG.
I have a Leeson, I think, on mine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do. We use a few.
We used Leesons for a while too.
Yeah.
It's good though. Along that, like we were saying, capitalism. There has to be competition because, we'll use one company for a while and they'll be giving us good pricing, and all of a sudden they think that they've just got us in the bag, and then all of a sudden they'll raise our prices 30%. We're like, well,
sure,
wow,
you guys aren't the only game in town, so
Right.
You don't get our next order. Sorry. So keep them bidding against each other. We'll leave one company for a while, and then they'll get a new salesman that's hungry and come around and offer us a good deal.
It sounds like when I was selling machine tools. Do the same thing. We'd have shops. We'd go in. We'd come in with one sales rep, Kennametal or Walter or whatever, and we'd run the other guys out. And a couple months later, they'd run us out.
That's
I know the
frustrating
feeling
on the sales side, but but it's good for everybody, just like in the grinder game too. So much of what we do gets dictated by we're trying to run our own race as much as possible, but you have to be aware of what's going on, only because, like we were saying, you want to solve a problem with your tools. And if someone's already making an attachment one way, then I'm not going to do it the same way. Otherwise, what value am I adding to the market? So our competitive advantage is to do something different. So you have to be aware, and you compete against each other. And it's really raised the bar of, I think, people's expectations, even in the last 7 years since we started doing this. When we started, a grinder company only needed to offer like a platen and a small wheel holder and now it's like, that's means you don't have any attachments. If you only have a platen and a small wheel holder, like, where's all your fancy stuff? So it's really, everybody's had to step up to a new level.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
This question was brought up to me today. A good friend of mine, another knife maker, he asked me do you carry the 1.5-inch tool arms for all your accessories?
Yeah.
All your accessories. Can you?
I'm trying to think, there's an exception. The hollow grinding jig, we don't offer with the 1.5 inch because there's so many other aspects of the geometry that have to work to, the spacing between the upper accessory arm and the lower accessory arm and all that, and then the work rest. We like, don't even try. Like most stuff, it's pretty easy to just slap onto one of our 1.5 inch arms, and our arms let you adjust it left to right to center up with your machine, so it's easy.
That's right.
And
Okay.
but I think the hollow grinding jig and the fully adjustable table are the only exceptions. Pretty much everything else you can throw on.
Everything else arm. It goes on the 1.5 inch arm, and we have that on our website too. If you buy just the accessory and click down, you could get it with a 2 inch or 1.5 inch arm.
Not with all of them. So that's always, we're not website developers. We made our website the best we could within our abilities, self-taught. And one of the hard things is the balance between sharing, like making options available, and then making the website too confusing and too much information, too many options. So the ones that we get asked for all the time, I have the drop down for the 1.5 inch. And then the other ones, I don't want our Ameribrade customers to make their process more difficult and more decisions to make, and having to think about which arm to buy if they just want to come buy an accessory. So I don't put it on all of them, but you can. If you email us, I can sell it to you with an 1.5 inch arm.
How about the surface grinder?
Yeah, that one's one of the that's the first one we did with an 1.5 inch arm, because
really, surface grinder, you can do that? Okay.
Yeah. Chris Williams from Wilmot Grinders approached us at Blade Show and said, I don't want to have to design and make a surface grinder, and your guys's seems to be the best. Would you be open to making an arm that adapts yours onto mine? So we designed the spacing and everything on our 1.5 inch arm off of his design, but it's pretty standard. So we make two lengths now, because for a while his arm only needed to be pretty short, like 16 inches or something, or maybe even shorter. But we've come across some other 1.5 inch machines that need longer arms, so we started making like 22 inch ones or something.
Yeah, I forget, but
Good deal.
Yeah.
That's good. I appreciate that, because I'll let him know tomorrow. A lot of people believe that y'all just carry the 2 inch arms. That's good that y'all adapted to that, down the road, because there's a lot of people like your attachments, and when they find out that you can adapt to their 1.5 arms, so that should bring some customers in for y'all. So
yeah, we always hope it's just an introduction to our quality too. It's like, so much of this stuff is hard to tell online what goes into it, but if you get one of our surface grinders in your hands and you see everything that goes into it and how we build stuff, and then you can compare that to where you're getting your other attachments from and what sort of quality is there, then it can help people realize what we're trying to do.
I've got a question for you, Chip. Go ahead, Donna.
I'm just going to tell him I got about everything you got now.
I know.
I got I got one more thing I need to get from y'all, and I checked today. Had the wheels back in stock.
Yeah, what size?
The contact wheels.
For?
Well, I was looking to maybe get that hollow grind system.
Oh yeah, with the 10 inch.
I seen that. Oh man, they got 10 inch wheels in, so that's a good deal.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. I didn't see that hollow grind system.
Yeah, it's got its limitations. It works really well for if you work within its parameters. The big thing is full tang. Well, you'd have to get creative if you fall outside of these parameters, but for it to work really easily, you'd have to do full tang blades. And
Yeah, because you need quite a bit of the blade to kind of lay flat on the work rest while you're cutting the hollow grind, and then when you flip it over, you still need a good amount of blade to reference off of while you do the other.
You need that flat
side, the other hollow grind.
Yeah, if you've beveled most of your reference surface away, then it's not going to lie flat when you flip it over to do the other side. So
tricky. So it's really useful for some things, not so much for others. So it's all within the parameter.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that'd be. Yeah, go ahead, Tip. Go ahead, Tippy.
Y'all got me distracted with the hologrind deal. Now my brain went away. Okay, now I remember. Okay, so other than say the motors and the VFDs, are y'all machining everything in house?
Yep.
Yeah.
Laser cutting is
outstanding.
all in house now too. As of 2 years ago, we started doing all of our own laser cutting, welding, press brake, turning,
It's
milling.
outstanding.
Yeah. Welding.
Are y'all running
yeah.
manuals or NCs on the mills and the lathes, or both?
Everything for production is NC. We've got manual machines for little one-off stuff. It's always nice to have a manual machine around, but yeah.
Okay.
Oh, CNC stuff. We think we have went down a little bit. What do we got now? We have 3 mills and 3 lathes.
Yeah, we used to have 4
Okay.
CNC lathes, but we traded 2 smaller ones for 1 big one.
I got you.
Yeah. So see if that bet
Yeah.
works out. Running.
We're out of space, so we couldn't just add. We had to
Right.
make our space work, and unfortunately, it's always hard to get rid of a good machine. But
Yeah.
So these CNCs, they 4-axis, 5-axis? What kind of machines are you running?
yeah. So again, back to what's best. Kevin definitely has the experience. Kevin did big old 5-axis stuff at the aerospace company. You know, the gantry he ran, I don't remember how big the gantry was, how much travel it had, but
It's a 60 foot in X, 20 foot in Y, and 10 foot in Z of travel.
yeah, so that's so that was all 5-axis
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But again, talking about what's best is for us,
Nice.
we want to be able to buy the machines that do what we need to do the best. So we don't need all that for grinder parts. So all of our mills are 3-axis.
Right.
For a while, we had one with a rotary
Yeah.
positioner, 4th axis, but
Which is nice for some stuff, but
yeah,
it
Yeah.
got older and we didn't replace it with a 4-axis, but all 3-axis. And then we make
Yeah.
specialty like pallet systems that come in for every part we do. And then that one pallet, are kind of, it's called a pallet, but it's kind of like a tombstone approach on a horizontal. You'll run
Right.
like one of our pallets will run, if the part has 3 or 4 ops, it'll run all 3 or 4 ops on it, and then how many ever of them we can fit. So some pallets have like 15 parts on it, and you'll run 4 of each op, or 3 of each op, or 5 of each
Yeah.
op, 3 ops. You'll have 15 parts. So every time you cycle start that, you get 5 finished parts out.
Yeah.
So that's our approach, and all the machines pretty much take those pallets. So even if you're doing just on a 3-axis machine, when you have that pallet in there, you're getting it so fast that's what we think we like to do for production. Kind of being from aerospace and specializing in that large envelope machining, they call it. I would do one large part, and the finish cycle time to do just the finished toolpath on it could be 96 hours. So I never had to worry about hundreds of little parts. I never did that type of machining. So something kind of learning, still figuring out. You never quit learning and figuring out better ways to do stuff.
That's right.
yeah. Although our new lathe, you could probably say, is technically
it's-
like
I think it's
4.
like 9 axis.
It's always
9
hard to-
axes, but
9 separate axes. You're kind of getting effective access to the part as if it were like a 4th axis.
yeah.
But it's a
That's cool.
live tooling sub spindle lathe. So
Y axis.
Y-axis as well. So
Yeah.
that it's going to let us take a lot of our lathe parts that right now we have to run one op and either part it off or hand flip it and then run a second op. Now, hopefully we'll be able to run those and drop them off in one operation, which also helps we're hoping that the sub spindle handoff between the main and sub spindle will also keep concentricity and run out minimized between the first and second ops. So that should.
I'm geeking out listening to y'all talk about this because that's my wheelhouse. I love that stuff. So
because if you're a grinder,
I'm sitting here like, oh, this is so cool. People are going to be listening. Like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, sorry. We'll try to avoid some of the
Oh,
some of
it's
the
all
machining
good. I'm
jargon,
happy. I care less what anybody else thinking. I'm thrilled like a fat kid at the prom. I'm happy to be here.
I mean,
So-
the reason it matters is because, like, if you're a grinder company, you're a wheel company. Like, the grinder is the quality of the grinder is like the quality of your wheels.
Amen.
And it's pretty tricky to do production lathe work. I never realized, because usually when you're used to hand loading stuff from the manual world, it's like you don't worry about you can sit there and fudge around with how you clamp it up, and you don't worry about the run out. But when we automate all of our second op stuff, and when you've got a gantry robot loading the parts for second operation, if it doesn't load properly, you get a little chip in there on the jaws that's holding your parts out 5/1000ths. Like, now you've got a wobbly wheel.
Yeah, which either be vibrations, or your bearings won't last as long as they should,
or tracking problems. So it's tough to go from low volume to high volume. It's new problems that.
And that same exact thing that, like, when we were trying to make the cheap grinder, like we bought contact, when we first started, we bought contact wheels from China. Like, oh, look, these cheap wheels, like, that will allow us to do for now. But then it's like, well, it's not quite right. It was cheap and it was decent enough for what it was, but it's like, it wasn't right. And that it bugged us, because we thought we could make it right and not have to charge a whole lot more. And that's what has always gotten us. Like, if we charge just a little bit more, but it's exponentially better, that's where you're getting that value from. I only had to charge you a little bit more, but you're getting a lot better product. So the wheels are another great example of the amount of specialty tooling, and the amount of, we've been doing it for 7 years now, the amount of revisions we've made on some products. And just not even necessarily design revisions, like manufacturing revisions. We make sure we cut both bearing pockets in our wheels within the same operation, which means, special tooling to go around the backside and cut the bearing pocket and stuff. It takes quite a bit of work, and we geek out on that stuff of, what's the right way to make it, especially something like that. It doesn't really cost anything extra to make it the right way. Eventually,
the process. So that's the cool thing about manufacturing, is usually there's always something you don't get something for nothing. But the cool thing with manufacturing is sometimes, if you're just doing something smarter, then you do get something for nothing, because you were just wasting effort before.
It just takes our figuring it out, which we'll never charge anyone like our hours to figure it out. Now, if I could make 1,000 of them, then you get all of that time to figure it out over that 1,000 of them. We just don't charge you for that, and it works out.
It seemed like you guys, like, around 2018, like, your company was really starting to innovate stuff, really growing, because I think, is that the time the Fastback came out?
The Fastback came out. The Fastback actually was our answer to COVID. We thought, man, people are going to need a cheaper machine, and we think we can make a machine cheaper. Of course, we were way wrong again, and it ended up being cost us actually about the same, more on certain areas, but saved us labor in other areas.
But we did realize that
we could make a nicer product.
More consistent.
It looks nicer too.
A little more consistent. All of the classics we shipped were nice products, but it took us quite a bit of time, because you have this weldment. If you ever weld anything, your accuracy is completely out the window. It is completely gone. It depends what you want, though. It will work. Right. I mean, we straight welded grinders for a long time, but again, just back to that, it's not quite right. But if we change it, it won't necessarily cost more, but it'll be, it'll be a little better for what we think we're trying to do. So if you weld something and you have adjustments and or post machining in the manufacturing world, you could take care of that.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of times when you put heat, I know Joey's a welder, but I found out years ago that when you go to tack weld something, especially a piece of sheet metal, it can kind of get a bow in it, or it can get kind of wonky. So
that heat will start drawing.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Stuff moves a lot.
Yep. Oh yeah.
One of the biggest
I didn't
things.
realize how much metal moved until I made a sword. um, I made a katana because I'm stupid, and I thought it would be a great idea. And I had to borrow a quench tank because I didn't, and I had to do the heat treat in the forge because my oven's not big enough. It was a very ill planned experience, and I got it all at the right temperature. Went in the quench and pulled it out, and that thing was, I mean, just dead straight. And as it started cooling, it started doing this to me, and I was like, "Oh dear God, oh, what do I do?" So I had a piece of 1-inch square tube and thick walled square tube, and I put like 8 clamps on that thing. And it's a good thing that I'd left a lot of meat on it to grind out the major warp that ended up being in that katana.
Yeah.
It turned out great, but dear God, I ground on that thing. Just the rough grind was 8 hours. So,
I mean, poor plans are fine if the investment is low. Like, go for it. Don't think about it too hard and just do it, because I bet you learned a lot.
Oh yeah.
I learned I needed a new grinder. That's one of the things I learned, which is really, kind of works out that y'all are on the show today. So, I have gotten a chance in the past to use a couple of y'all's grinders, and it's Joey won't let me use his anymore, though. Yeah, I messed up one of his belts with some handle material, and I'm not allowed to touch it anymore.
So, yeah, watch out.
One mistake. There's no mercy whatsoever. No. In fact, we one of my first experience with an Ameribrade grinder. Y'all get a kick out of this. My motor mounts moved on mine, my old grinder, and a buddy of mine. He's actually the guy that does all of our laser engraving for our logos and everything. He had just bought one of y'all's grinders, and he said, "Tip," he said, "come get it. You can put it in the shop and you can use it as long as you want." We just finished heat treating on our second production run, so we had 100 blades that we needed to grind and no grinder to do it on. And so we brought y'all's grinder into the shop, and for the next week, I sat and ground 100 blades on an Ameribrade grinder.
Ooh, okay.
And then after I got all the chaos settled down, I went and fixed the motor mounts of my old grinder, and I had to give that one back to him. And it was one of the hardest days of my life up to that point. It was like, this kind of sucks. I was living in this dream world, being able to use a grinder where the belt doesn't do this. You can ask Joey; he's used it. So
the first
I don't
time
have a VFD on mine. So
first time I used his grinder,
it was,
and the belt started going off track. I turn around, I'm looking for him, like, Tip, what's going on, man? I'm there's a knob at the top, so I'm trying to touch it, and little did I know you don't need to touch it a whole lot to try to fix it. So I'm like, I yank, what I think is the tracking thing on there, and the belt just goes, it just goes completely off the grinder.
Belt tracking's got some magic to it.
Welcome to my world, gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that you liked ours. We like the opportunities when we sit down and use ours for a while, because we forget, like, you kind of forget, and just that they are nice.
Yeah. It's hard to a little bit paranoid / you got to be confident enough or cocky enough to try something, but then not cocky and that you make the best thing ever. So we very much fall in that category, and we're constantly like, do we make a good product? Is it decent? Like,
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've gone onto y'all's website and built a grinder.
Oh, Eric, y'all got three packages, right?
It's pleasant.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, for the packages we built, we put it in the get grinding, just kind of like bare minimum we recommend to get you going. at the lowest price point with the 2x72.
Complete price, running out of the box running.
Yeah, the biggest thing there is it's single speed, and like we said, the motor's your biggest part of the cost there. So that is a big compromise there. So then what we call the next step up is the foundations, where you're not compromising on that. It's still variable speed. So you've laid the foundations for like anything you want to do in the future. And it doesn't have everything, but you can add that stuff later. You've laid the foundations and you can build on it from there. So that's the middle package. And then the mastery package is still not everything, but it's everything that we can sit, no matter what you do, even if you're not a knife maker, everything that's in the mastery package, no matter what you do, is useful. Because not everybody, even if you're a knife maker, we're not going to throw the hollow grinding jig in there because not everybody hollow grinds. We're not going to throw the whip attachment in there because not everybody does integral bolsters. We don't have a package where it's just everything, because that gets so specific to what people want. We never want people to buy something that they never end up using. Like we've done that with tools before. We just get a package and then we never touch some attachment that came with it. So
half of them you don't even use.
The mastery package, I'd be surprised if you tell me that you don't need a small wheel holder and a combo platen. That's right. Like a work rest, even if you freehand stuff every once in a while, it's nice to have a work rest. So
it is.
I'm sitting here going through it while y'all are talking, looking at stuff. Man, that's nice.
That's kind of how the logic behind how we set up the packages. And then we still got the custom build section so the packages are just for convenience. There's not really like a price break. We just wanted to make it easy for people to be confident that they're getting a complete package that's going to be functional. Because I think with the custom build, a lot of people get overwhelmed by the amount of information and studying you have to do to make all the decisions. What size drive wheel do I want? What attachments do I need? Is this going to come with? So I think it just simplifies it by being in the packages, but the custom build is an option for the people that do know all the stuff, have geeked out and done their research and want to just pick and choose exactly what they want.
Well, Eric, who came up with the stand? Who developed the stand that your grinder sits on?
Oh, shoot. If you ask us that about anything, that's a hard question to answer, because it's so collaborative between me and Kevin that nobody remembers whose idea is what. And the lines get really blurred. Like there's elements that are one person's idea, and then it's all just a jumble. But we knew with the stand that people had asked us for a stand for a long time, but we always try to sit on an idea until we feel like we have something. It's like, we could make a pedestal, but that's not fun. It's not clever.
And there's inherently problems with it. If you do a traditional pedestal, you have to bolt it down, or it has to be incredibly heavy to be sturdy. So it's like, bolting down is kind of a bummer, and incredibly heavy is actually kind of cool, but makes it hard to ship it and stuff like that. So it's like, what are we going to do? So
we just kind of always let stuff marinate. And it's like, if we don't have any clever ideas, don't force it. Just wait. You don't have to try to sell junk just to sell junk. So finally we're like, well, we could solve another problem with the stand. Like you always need somewhere to store stuff.
Store tools.
That's right.
Yeah. And we experimented with like 3-legged stands first, because, a 3-footed design keeps it from wobbling. But if you're going to have it on wheels and roll it around, that's pretty risky. If you ever rolled around a 3-wheeled thing,
it is
real tippy. So we wanted to go with 4 wheels for sure, we knew. But then if your concrete's not perfect, then you've got this wobbly grinder every time you touch it. So the leveling caster solved that for us.
That was a good idea. Very good.
Yeah, and they've got their issues too. Like nothing's perfect. It's still something that we try to think on and improve. But it reached a point, at least with the leveling casters, even with their problems and with the storage built in and everything. Okay, we're like, now it's at a level, at least, even with its problems, we're solving more problems than we're causing, and it's worth bringing to market. So
the problems he speaks of is we move our machines around constantly, and we're so sick of getting down and adjusting the leveling casters up and down. We probably move them around quite a bit more than other people do.
If you only take it out of your shop once a week to sweep up or something, then
Yeah.
It wouldn't bug you, but we move ours so much. I am so sick of bending down. And
yeah, we are completely out of space. So like a lot of times when we try to make a video, we'll clear some stuff real quick and wheel a machine out and then set it up, grind something, make a video for Instagram and put it back. So we're doing that. Like we're adjusting the feet like twice a day.
Or when you go to trade shows and you are rolling in 6 machines and you gotta adjust them all. I know. So that's something we're aware of, but at the same time, there's nothing better that we're aware of. So,
yeah, that wouldn't cost an exorbitant amount of money. Better. And to Eric's point, when we did when we sit on stuff, a lot of people had asked for the surface grinder, and it's hard. We're not, like I said, we're not cocky or anything, but just we really enjoy sitting down and talking problems out. And you could think about a problem to yourself, but you're only ever going to see it through your lens, and just having one other person that you can communicate with and trust and are willing to let your ego, down and not have to be right all the time. We can bounce ideas off of there, and then he'll say something that'll trigger me, and then I'll say something that'll trigger him. And you could do, 50 design revisions in 10 minutes of, this has got that problem, but this takes care of it. And this is all that. So when we designed our first surface grinder, we designed it and it didn't feel right. And we didn't touch that design for a year. And then Eric had some ideas, came back to it, and then we started collaborating again. And then we made the prototype and released it.
Yeah, we're like, this feels right now.
This feels right.
Yeah, it's a nice setup, man. I really enjoyed that surface grinder.
Yeah, thanks.
Very precise too.
Yeah, a lot of people get hung up like, everybody's a keyboard warrior, and people who aren't familiar with the application will be like, oh, that's not a true surface grinder. Oh, 1 thou isn't very accurate compared to what a real surface grinder can do. And it's like, everything's to solve its own problem. Like, this solves a different set of problems than a true surface grinder.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, true surface grinder is great, solves a different set of problems, but it takes up floor space that a lot of people don't have in their home shops. And it only makes a 1 inch wide. I don't know what stones come in.
Yeah, call it at a decent 1 inch wide, and if you're lucky, you could take off 1 thou or 2 at a time. If you're really hogging something on a traditional 5 horsepower.
They're really, really heavy too. So funny story. Joey helped me move my surface grinder last year. I had a friend of mine that he's got a machine shop, and he's got a 1940s era Brown and Sharp surfacing machine, and it's only got a 4-foot square footprint. It's a relatively small machine, but it weighs. We found that later, just over 2,000 pounds.
Yeah,
and we about tore my carport down, unloading it off the trailer.
You lifted it with the trusses or something.
Yeah,
we put a chain hoist.
Yeah, with a 3-ton chain hoist, and
if you scroll back far enough in our Instagram, we did the same thing with our first manual mill. We had a chain hoist in the ceiling.
Yeah, it was sketchy at best, and but you're right. I mean, and I love it. It's a great machine, and we get we've got tolerances of less than 0.5 thousandths on it. When it runs, that's a whole nother conversation, but that we're not going to have tonight. But you're right. I mean, that's the thing, and mine's set up for 1/2-inch wheel. Now we're talking about converting it to a belt, and that opens up a little bit, there. But what y'all are doing with y'all's machines, especially in our industry, it opens up so much for, like you said, guys that don't have room in their shop, or they've got their grinder in the corner of their garage because they fell in love with Fortune Fire or whatever it was that brought them into this industry. You and even some of your competitors that we've seen, it's brought such I say competitors, your counterparts, it might be a better word, but y'all have brought such a dynamic into the industry where, it's a game changer. because those kinds of attachments, I love watching y'all's videos, and I kind of geek out. If y'all get like 10,000 plays, mine's like 8,000 of them. So I'll just go back and watch it over and over and over again. Because I enjoy seeing all of that and watching how y'all do that kind of stuff. And knowing, having my background in the machining industry, it's being able to, I'll pause y'all stuff so I can see how y'all build stuff. That's just the geek in me. But it really opens up for everybody, whether they're brand new into the knife making community or they've been in it for 30, 40, 50 years. What y'all bring to the industry it really is a game changer, because with all y'all's attachments, and it baffles me. It really does. And I have to commend you on what y'all are doing for the industry. And I know you didn't start out, thinking, hey, there's all these hundreds of thousands of knife makers in the world. Let's build something to make their day go by better,
Yeah.
But, here you are, and you're doing that. So,
yeah.
And we kind of fell off the story of how we fell into that because we weren't aware of it. But once we did start seeing some of the problems, not being knife makers, we have a different perspective of how to do stuff, being more machinists, like same way we design stuff and having a separate set of eyes, coming from outside of the knife making industry and knowing how things are done, not knowing how things are already done, then we just kind of had a fresh perspective, I think, which is beneficial.
Yeah.
And we've done a certain amount of knife making since we've gotten into it, and the attachments, we see the argument for people who talk about freehanding stuff, and anytime you can develop a skill that gives you more freedom, definitely there's something to be said for that. But the attachments kind of just open it up to a wider audience of, what, I'm either going into production and I need to be able to hire someone to do this, or multiple people to be able to recreate the same result, or I don't have thousands of hours to get the result I want. I want to be able to make Christmas gifts this year and have it turn out a way that I'm proud of. So anytime you can get an advantage from something mechanical, I don't see, people would disagree with that. Even in the woodworking, there's that divide of people who are all about cutting dovetails by hand, and then people who use the jigs. And it's just like, there's always what part of it interests you, and is it the tradition of it that you want to geek out on, or do you want to just get through that to get to another part of the process you enjoy, so that you can, otherwise, I don't know, everybody's got their different part of it that they're interested in.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting, fun topics that we are just interesting to see the different points of views and stuff on it. I think, falling back to that story of kind of how we came into the knife world and some of the things you just said there. I think it's kind of funny. We don't have like some sort of mission statement that we started with, and this is our way of executing that. I think one thing that we always did, and it's just a moral that me and Eric just both happen to each have, and we're friends and working together, was just try to give more than you take, which usually comes down to how are you going to do that? And you're usually going to do that by something you're good at. You're going to help other people with your skill, and that's going to allow you to give more than you take. So with that in mind, and then I think another thing we kind of stumbled on was, how are we going to use our skills with manufacturing and designing to help other people? And we're both craftsmen. So, talking about the knife industry and stuff, even though I wasn't in the knife industry, I was a fabricator, as how I know how to use a grinder and stuff like that. You're still, having to handcraft things with your hands, and in my case, out of metal. So even though I hadn't made a knife before, when I see it, I was like, oh yeah, I know what you're doing there. You're trying to get the metal to do this. So kind of like you said, we fell, or, talking about it, we fell into the knife industry I thought it'd be a good product for fabrication and stuff like that. And then when we got on Instagram, I don't even remember how, but some people hit us up. One of our longtime customers, Andrew Osley, was the first one I could remember that hit us up and bought one of the first 5 that we had sold, and was a knife maker. And we're like, oh, okay, there's, this industry. And that's kind of how we fell into it.
And just kind of came onto our radar. And
Yeah.
Like I said, if you're always kind of guiding based off of what the feedback you're getting, there's a lot of knife makers on Instagram giving us feedback about this is why this needs to be better. This is why this needs to do that. And this is a problem that we're having. And it's like, well, we can think of a solution to that. So those were the problems being presented to us that we could think of solutions for. So kind of just thanks to the knife community asking the questions and presenting the problems that guided us that direction.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly, it's a very interesting, still, being in the knife industry, but like on a little bit different end, you guys are making the knives. It has really consumed our entire life for the last 7 years, because when we started the first 3 years, we had day jobs and we'd work, supposed to work 9 hours a day. So, sometimes because I was on the manufacturing side, I might try to get there at 5 some days, but you're supposed to be there by 8. So we'd work anywhere from, 5 to 2:30, 8 to 4:30 or something. But then we would come back to Eric's home shop and start making grinders. We had no idea why, but we just started making grinders, and we started selling them. And it was funny too, Eric's shop, when we started making grinders, like we had no tools, no anything. There's no lights in his shop. We didn't even have lights.
We would clamp up like the lights you put in a terrarium, like the little spring clamp, the hot bulb, like clip that to whatever was nearby.
Yeah, it's
like
several
grinders
a Vietnamese interrogation room. Like we were trying to build these grinders.
We're proud of it. It's funny looking back at the videos, and it's like we thought we were doing something big. Like,
it's
I'm sure we'll think that about now too when we look back. Look at us.
Yeah, but it's consumed our lives. I mean, any time our wives would give us, I think we try to do 3 or 4 nights a week. We'd be here, cutting, welding, bending, setting grinders up, testing them, shipping them, and then just did that for 3 years and kept growing until we made the leap to do it full time. Eric made the leap, and we are starting to get busy, and just like, now's our chance. If we think we want to do our own thing, we got to jump. I think we always thought too, like, to get into that, not to get off track, but to get into that a little bit, we always thought like, oh, eventually you get to a spot where you're successful enough and you're making enough money, you can have a nice, easy, uneventful, unstressful transition. Because you are working 2 jobs, you should have enough money. But we found that was not the point, because the company was growing rapidly, and we have always taken all the money from the company and just put it right back in. We try to take minimal amount. So at that point, we're taking no money for the first 3 years. We didn't pay ourselves anything, literally.
You know what you want, and to make it happen, machines are expensive. Like, you got to put it all back in to make it happen at all. You're already stretching yourself thin. So to expect to pay yourself and do that, paying yourself just takes away from achieving what you want to achieve. So
so it got to the point where we were like, now's the time we have to do it, or
out of necessity, not because really it didn't feel like the money was there. It just was like, well, the backlog is getting so long. If I keep going and trying to do the day job, something is going to just collapse. Either I'm going to let one of them is going to slip, and which one do I care about more? And it's like, well, this thing that we've built, we care about more. Yeah. So
Eric made the jump, and I was going to make the jumps a few months later to just kind of stagger it, try to play it safe a little bit. And then a few months later, COVID had already hit. Eric made the jump, and a few months later, my work called me and laid me off. So COVID
man, what a deal!
To be fair to him, it was a mass layoff.
Yeah.
But
it hurt my feelings at first, but like, that was so incredibly lucky. Like,
he got a severance.
I got a severance package. Everything. And Eric, hey, let's quit. Eric would have never got fired though. He was too good there.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, I got laid off too. That's how I went full time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Need a
didn't
push.
get a severance package though. They made me drive an hour one way to let me know I was getting laid off.
Oh,
So
Oh,
it was
geez.
good times. I won't say who I was working for at the time.
That's
So
that's
oh,
nice.
Still listening?
yeah,
It was.
it was
kind of funny. It was like a weird mix of emotions. I was a little upset. I was like, wait a second. Why'd they pick me? But they first called me. It was like the director of our facility, our General Atomics huge. They make the Predator drones for the military. They have, what was the wingspan on some of those?
60,
120 feet with some of the
Yeah,
extended
they're
range
massive.
ones. So, I mean, you're talking, missile carrying combat drones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had millions of hours in combat with those in theater. Sorry.
Yes.
Theater.
I'll throw this out there because it's public now. Pretty proud of the last plane me and Kevin were very heavily involved in was Mojave, if you look it up. And it carries 16 Hellfires. And they just did aircraft carrier takeoff and landing with it. So they did that. It was ready to fly when we left.
Yeah.
But we never got to see it fly, but we've seen them announce the flights and everything. So that's pretty cool to see that.
It was very cool.
That sounds real, satisfying. Like, slightly different thing, but
it really is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. After this is all over, we're going to stay on here and we're going to talk about some things. So we'll talk about the stuff that y'all used to build and that's cool. That is that's neat. I geek out on that kind of stuff too. So
airplanes are really cool. I wasn't into airplanes, but working there, and I was actually a lot of guys are in off road that work there, which is really cool. But there was a lot of airplane dorks, I call them there, and they kind of got me into it a little bit. So they're really
Joey's a nerd too, so it's all good. You fit right in.
I don't build airplanes or drones, but I build tugs.
Okay.
That pull a remote controlled airplane tug.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
I was real big into RC airplanes before college, and I almost went for aerospace engineering, but I was like, I'm not sure that just because I'm into RC airplanes, that's enough to pick a career out of. So I went more general and mechanical engineering, but then I ended up working in aerospace anyways. But we designed a cool tow body that, for big, I got to tow behind a C-130 when I worked there too. So that was cool.
That was a fun project as well. Supposed to have a different project,
but
it's actually what you said is a full size tug, right, for moving airplanes. But it's an RC. It's a remote controlled tug.
Yeah, it's a remote controlled.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean the small model can pull up to 15,000 pounds. The intermediate
I was
model
misunderstanding what you were calling.
Yeah, the intermediate model hauls up to 30, and the bomber bot hauls up to 50,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
they don't let me play with those when I go to the shop either.
Oh jeez.
Oh, man.
I don't get to touch much over at Joe's shop.
that's not true. I'll let you use the grinder.
Yeah.
I know.
One time. So. I broke the saw blade last time I was over there too. So
I see. I'll let you use the bandsaw.
Yeah, until the saw blade broke. So yes,
there's certain things. I'm that type of way. I have a certain notoriety about certain things, but one of my things I'm notorious for at my friend's shop is it's just like an accident. If there's any sort of oil or hydraulic fluid or oil somewhere, I will get it all over your shop.
Yeah,
it will.
It's gonna spill.
It's
gonna
spray. There will be oil everywhere.
Yeah.
So
you'd fit in at my shop. It'd be all right. You wouldn't. We're good.
Today it wasn't oil though. Today it was water.
Oh yeah, I
haven't got water all
water main. But
nice.
How many guys?
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I was going to ask them how many guys y'all got working for y'all now at the shops.
At this shop,
it's weird because we've kind of split it up now. We kind of treat the laser shop as its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so being I'll answer that too, but picking up on the story, just being manufacturing nuts, like you have to use our skill of manufacturing and designing things to try to help other people add value to their lives. So if we're going to find satisfaction in our life by making equipment, tools, because we like designing them, we like manufacturing them, that tool has to either help someone make something better or make something faster. It's kind of two of the things we've came up with. So that's kind of one of our guiding principles now. Like a lot of people will buy a lot of stuff, but it won't help them make them faster or better. So then that's one of our requirements to make anything new. Like, is this really helping them make something faster or better than they currently can? And then if the answer is no, then we don't really want to mess with it. It's not really adding value to the world. It's not giving the world more than it has, not benefiting it. So, but slightly off topic there, but, so we're real, manufacturing nuts. With that, when we're talking about the wheels and everything, we have to like control the whole process to make it as best as we can. So we've got quite a bit of equipment and guys, and we started in Eric's home shop. Luckily, he had a good sized home shop, and eventually, at one point, we had 18 guys in here working at his home shop, building and assembling grinders. And then when we decided to bring some more of the manufacturing in house, we got another building across town in the industrial part of town, and thought we were going to move the whole company over there. And what ended up happening is we are now at both locations completely packed full of equipment and guys. So,
oh, wow.
We have less people here at my house now, though. I think we've got about 10 here at my house.
10. Yeah.
But we're doing is about the same amount we were. We've gotten more efficient. And then we've probably got about 10 guys at the laser shop too. So overall, still around that 20 mark.
20 guys. The laser shop, when we got that equipment, that equipment's been around for a while. When that equipment came out, what do they call it? It's a disruptive. Yeah, when like CNC lasers and stuff came out, that was considered a disruptive technology because anyone fabricating and making sheet metal that was so precise and accurate, it disrupted the industry.
Yeah, you would have had to do stuff on punches or specialty tooling, stamping tooling, or some other way.
Flame tables, which doesn't have the accuracy, plasma tables, which again, or don't have the accuracy, but that equipment was millions of dollars. So when we just by coincidence started ramping up and doing a lot of that type of work, there were some of those machines hit the market that were only a few $100,000, not millions of dollars. Yeah. And when we saw those machines, we're like, hey, that makes sense for us. Like, we should get one of those. So when we got one of those, a bunch of other people did, which then now that laser cutting was so readily available, more people started designing for it, in my opinion. And now laser cutting is a very big industry. And we just happened to be in a geographic location where once people found out we had those laser cutting capabilities, they started asking us to do their work, and we saw opportunity there. And again, kind of fit one of our morals. Like, we could do what we're good at and help people,
do what they're good at.
Yeah, do what they're good at. Help, a win-win. You can help better the world a little bit.
Yeah, so we kind of treat them as two different companies now so that we can take on other people's work at the laser shop too.
Yeah.
Cool. Good deal.
Well, it doesn't, it goes back to what you were saying earlier, not being, you're talking about the motors, not being confined to one industry or one, producer. That opens y'all up to where, if the knife industry tanks, which I don't see it going that way, but, if something happens and, y'all definitely got some other avenues where y'all can, follow that particular line of thought where you're bringing value to other industries. So that's pretty cool.
It is good.
And I think it's good for us, for everybody, for us to be healthy as a grinder company, and be diversified, so that, say there is a dip in the knife market, it doesn't mean we go away,
Right.
Because whoever owns our machines wants us around to support the machines. So it's good for us and good for all of our customers, for us to make sure we're as healthy as possible and going to be around for a while. So we try to make sure that's going to be the case.
I'm gonna ask a personal question if it's all right, guys.
Yeah.
Coming from the outside in to the knife industry, what do you think about it?
There's a lot of variety in the knife industry. I think you have to go to like a blade show to really get an appreciation for it.
Yeah.
Because I think your first impressions are just like, you don't get it. Like, just the stuff seems overpriced, just like everybody looking at our grinders thinks our grinders are overpriced. You don't get you don't understand the details that people care about. And the variety, you don't understand the variety of types of blades. And I mean, if you're a blade show and you've got the Bally Song guys, and then you've got the like fanciful sword makers, like they're on such opposite ends of the spectrum, and then everything in between. Like,
I'd be curious. It'd be real fun to pick what blade or niche of the blade community is the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah,
because there is some, and that's, I started going that path earlier and I got distracted. I'm a little slow, but and easily distracted. But
you both.
I don't remember what my initial thoughts of the knife industry were, but what I know about the knife industry now, and I still almost consider myself an outsider because I'm not actually making the knives day in and day out because we're so busy trying to do what we're really good at, which is manufacturing and designing machinery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's so diverse, and so it's just a knife. Every one of them is a knife, but they're so different. The people are different. The techniques are different. The material selection, and I really didn't think I was going to like it as much. We had some free time at an event, and we finally got to actually just sit down because we had to be there. And not that we had to be there, we were waiting. So we're like, me and Eric, we are not idle guys. We can't be on idle at all. So we're like, okay, we're making knives now. And it was a lot of fun. Just like the material selection and the steels and all the design choices. Like, I don't see how anyone could not get into knife making.
Yeah. I think it's because it's so simple in principle that all the details start mattering, because there's not a bunch of, I mean, folders have moving pieces. Don't get me wrong. There's some complex folders, but
which is like, again, just pointing out the complexity around a single simple item.
Yeah. It's still from the outside, it looks like a thin piece of metal, like with like a heat treat, like, that's most people from the outside don't even understand that. Yeah. And then when people look at a grinder, they're like, it's just some wheels spinning a belt. Like, what is there to it? But we've definitely gained a huge appreciation for everything that goes into what it takes to make a knife.
Yes.
Well.
Yeah.
Yes. Like you said, there could be dips or something, or the knife industry could kind of, the knife industry could, dip or collapse or something, you might have said. But one of the things we talk about a little bit is when I graduated high school in 2007, and that was at the height of A, the housing bubble, but B, people probably refining and buying choppers and motorcycles. And being into fabrication, choppers were huge, motorcycle mania and all this stuff.
American
that
chopper
industry went away overnight. And it was gone. And it's never been back. Yeah, to like it was. Anyways, motorcycles have been around, for 100 or 200 years, and they'll always be around, but it's not like it was in 07, 08. Mm-hmm. So where I was like, is the knife industry the same thing? And I don't think it is, because you could put so much of your personality, and you can be incredibly simple and have a nice product, or be incredibly complex and put all of your personality into it. I'm not choosing the right words, but I don't think it's going to go away just because it is so.
I think it may change. I think.
Absolutely.
Like, over the last few years with stimulus money and everything, it's been real easy for hobbyists who've never done it before to just jump in and buy a mastery package. Yeah. But I think there's going to be, if there is a shift, it's going to be, all right, there's going to be the core people who have moved on and found success as a full-time knife maker, and now maybe doing a production run or something and need equipment to do higher runs of stuff, or you've got now hobbyists need more entry level stuff to get into it because they can't just jump into such an expensive machine. So we're always trying to think in both directions.
Making it easier to get nice tools, aka more affordable, cheaper machines. But also too, we've thought a lot about machines. The grinder's fantastic, the current grinders and machines we make, but what if you are doing that production run of a few hundred knives? Could we make a machine that would make making a few hundred knives really easy? Maybe like semi-auto or something like that. We thought a lot about
it might have its limitations. You're not going to be able to do everything, but one of the options right now, when you look at YouTube videos of these knife production lines, that's not an option unless you're making hundreds of thousands. What about the guys that want to make 100?
That's a conversation you guys and I might need to have after we get off of here. Absolutely, because I don't want to grind. It's brutal, because in my shop it's just me. So if I say we're doing a production run of 100 knives, I'm grinding them. So
and the 2x72, even though it's great for its versatility, like versatility isn't like, again, that conversation of what's best. Versatility is not always the best. Like when you have a more specific goal that.
And when you're trying to do a lot of something specific, versatility hurts you. You want something specifically designed to make that, but not like Eric was saying, so specific you have to make 100,000 knives a year to pay for it.
So compromises.
That would be exciting. I hope we get some time to make some of those machines we've talked about. It's a double-edged sword success because we're successful and busy doing what we're doing, but we're not able to do a lot of the stuff we think of, and it's hard sometimes, especially if you see someone else come out with something you've really wanted to do and you're like, I've been thinking about that for like 6 years. That's a bummer.
I've got a long list of stuff that sits on my desk that I'm supposed to be drawing and designing. And every day I'm like, I'm going to knock off 4 from these lists and then 4 items from this list. But then I just get stuck doing payroll and insurance audits and all that sort of stuff.
205 forms for the state of California.
So, and then I'm like, I didn't even get to start on any of these. So we're trying to figure that out, learning business. We're not business guys. We're engineers and machinists, and figuring out the business side along the way and how to hand off what we can to people we trust. And then you need systems for how do you know that this is going to get done well once you hand it off? And
I'm going through the same thing. I know exactly what y'all are having to deal with as far as being able to, become a businessman or a business, on top of what you do, it's a different world. So.
And then family on top of it. We both have little kids. When we first started this, we were able to squeeze in those late nights because we didn't. Well, I had my first daughter.
Sam was pregnant when he moved in here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And when we went to the off-road swap meetings where we first took some of the first machines we made.
Yeah.
He was born.
I had my first daughter she's the same age as the company, basically.
Oh, wow.
But it was still like, with one, you think having one kid is like, oh, it's so time consuming. No, it's not. Once they start getting older and then you have a second and a third, it's like.
I've got 3.
Yeah, I've got 3. And it's like, you can't make your business work by working more.
Right.
Because then what are you doing it for if your family collapses? So you've got a wife that needs your support, and you've got kids that need you there. So we try to keep everything within core hours as much as possible. We stray out of that, but every once in a while. But you can't just do everything you want to do by working until 2 a.m. every night like we used to. Like, you gotta get inside and take care of what really matters.
Absolutely. That's right.
Family comes first, man.
Well, gentlemen, y'all got any more questions or?
Oh man, I'm good right now. I think they answered a lot of the guys' questions out here.
So it was an amazing story to hear, how they came up into where they are now. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Another thing
guys, y'all have any questions? Go ahead.
I was gonna say another thing that's kind of been unexpected and fun that we're kind of figuring out is just the business. Although the business side of things is frustrating, it's kind of fun to try to figure out and put those tidbits of information out there for people too, because we do know so many people, and the American dream is entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's fun to pass that along and fun to play around with things you might be able to, make or sell or add value to the world that way. So that's kind of like an unfound. That was something I wasn't expecting going into it, though. I would like the business side of things, half of the business side of things so much.
There's a certain element of doing business that's an exciting challenge.
It's like gambling. I think I'm addicted to gambling, but not at the casino. Like I can't force. I think I'd love to play blackjack, like if it wasn't my money or something. But doing business and stuff is like gambling. It's like I think if I make this, I could sell some. Like that's a good gamble I'm going to take.
Yeah.
Well, it's
always
like
a risk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because we come out in the custom knife world. In my experience, you can make a knife and you sell it, and that's like if you look at Mr. Greatness Terrio's award-winning knives, you see, he has a certain quality about it, and it's just it's amazing. He does great heirloom quality knives, and it's cool to see him do those things, but then you go to the other side of it, into the production side of it, and you can sell a custom knife because you're going to find somebody that's going to want that eventually. I mean, more likely if you're putting out a good custom knife, if you go into production and you make 200 of them and nobody likes it,
you'll be sitting.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Your business has failed. So, it's you're right. It's taking those gambles to where do we want to take what we're doing, whether it be making grinders or making knives. I think that mentality, you kind of have to be willing to roll the dice a little bit, and hope and pray that you read the market right, and that you putting something out there that's going to be marketable. I think you guys have done it. I really do.
So too.
Absolutely.
Not that my opinion, that and $12 gets you something at Starbucks, but I think, y'all are rocking it out, guys. I mean, really.
So maybe that is why we kind of got along with the knife world and kind of fell into it. I've never thought of it in those terms, but we're dealing with so many of the knife makers that are trying to do that same jump we did, going full time. You're connecting on that level of like entrepreneurship and making that gamble, doing that scary jump from relying on a paycheck from a company to relying on yourself. Because there's not a lot of other industries I think of that you could sell a grinder to where there's that many people trying to do it on their own. Most of the time you'd be selling to a bigger company that's buying it for their employees or something.
Exactly.
But the knife maker is buying it for myself. This is the biggest, probably the most expensive purchase in my shop, and I'm relying on you to give me something good to help me make my knife making successful. Like the biggest tool in my arsenal is hinging on what I'm buying from you. So I hope it's good.
Don't screw up, So, well, and I was telling you earlier, I had my old grinder go down. Y'all's grinder actually was a godsend. I mean, it really was. And to be able to say that, and this may just be for y'all, we may edit this out, I don't know. But just to brag on what y'all are doing is at the time I couldn't justify the expense of getting my own. I was getting there. I was trying to find it one way or another, but to have a good friend of mine who's in the industry as well said, "Hey, I'm gonna let you use this, and to be able to sit down at something that y'all produced in your shop that came to my shop and kept my business going. I mean, I mean, you need to pat yourself on the back because, in all honesty, what you produced helped keep my business running last year. So
that feels great.
You know, that's the thing, and that's the whole purpose. And I know Don and Joe will agree with me on this. That's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do with this podcast and with everything. We want to build each other up. I mean, because somebody took the time to teach me, to help me, to try to develop me, and it's our turn to give back. So anything that we can do to help the industry do that, that's the goal here. So
I think we're right there with you. I know might be my words, but it's mine and Eric's, beliefs and morals that, you got to make sure you take care of yourself. You got to be healthy and happy, and then you got to take care of your family, then your neighbors, then your community, then your state, your country, your world.
Yep.
We're trying to do the same thing. Just make sure we start local to yourself and start as you grow and have more strength, whether it be, mental or financial or whatever, start being a bigger impact to a better world, whatever that might be in every person's each individual way. So
absolutely.
Good. Well said, man.
Joe, you got any more questions?
No, man, this has been an awesome show, and I appreciate Eric and Kevin coming on and sharing their story with us.
Yeah, no doubt.
Anytime.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you. Thank you for your time. I know getting right off work and going in and doing something else is not the easiest task in the world.
Yeah.
So we do appreciate it. We really do. And we're going to be rolling this out this weekend. It'll go live on Spotify and YouTube at the Crafted Edge podcast. And we look forward to hopefully in the future having you guys back on, and we'll talk about some other stuff and different aspects. We tried, I think the first 3 episodes, me and Don and Greatness have tried to pick fights with everybody. We talked about which blade steel was better, and it's kind of like pulling the pin on a grenade and chunking it off into cyberspace and seeing what happens. But been getting some great feedback. But we really do appreciate you guys, and we look forward to what y'all are doing and watching Ameribrade grow into a great company that I think the knife making community can really look to for innovation, and I really do appreciate you guys coming on tonight. So,
well, thanks. Yeah, we'll be happy to be back and skip past some of the story stuff and get into some other topics next time.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Don, you got anything else tonight?
Well, I want to thank Eric because I've never talked to Kevin. Not one.
Really?
Well, I've never talked to him. Ever. I seen him on the videos. I thought he was Eric's right-hand man, I thought, but he does a pretty good video. He does. I mean, he does, but Eric does a really good video too, man. Because I remember when after I got the surface grinder, I had to go to his video and see how to set it up and how to not only set it up, but also how to. He does a great video on taper tangs.
Yep.
I mean, a great video.
More detailed on that one.
Yeah, you're very detailed.
One, yeah.
But simple.
Again, how
you
much
did it
information?
real simple.
Keep it simple or get real detailed. How much to share? But,
yeah, you did a good job, man. And then, and then Kevin did a great job on doing the demonstration on the hollow grind. Yeah, did a good job on that. I could tell when you talked. You never made a knife before. I kept saying, so I don't think it's supposed to be a knife.
Yeah,
he did a good job. He did a really good job.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, for some reason I was nervous in that one too.
Yeah, you were. Usually, you kept messing up and everything. Yeah,
I was nervous.
Did a good job.
And I think it's so cool that you guys actually took the time to make knives on your equipment that you've made. I think that's awesome. I don't know too many other manufacturers that, take the time to do that because they get caught up in the moment of just, working and producing these products they make. But, I remember Kevin mentioning, actually getting in there and making knives. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Good job, man. Good guys.
So one more question, I guess. Are y'all going to become knife makers in the future moving forward?
We've talked about ways of, we don't do anything small scale. The only way we've talked about doing it wouldn't be like the one-off. It would be, we've talked about going into production.
Yeah. Mass producing something. And I think we've talked more about mass producing some kitchen knives.
Mm.
And then I've thought a little bit more on the machine side. If I have Eric design me up a folder, I'd like to set up production on a folder on the machine side. Still do some handwork on the blade and stuff, but kind of marry two things I'm interested in.
Nice.
And Eric could put some cool mechanical stuff into it as well. So I don't know. I don't know what we would do, but we very well might.
The part that's exciting for us is figuring out how to do stuff as effortlessly as possible. So
with as much effort as possible up front.
Yeah, we like to have a lot of upfront investment and then just watch it go.
Yeah. So we talk. So I don't know. We might on the kitchen knives. We talk about closed form die molding, some like integral bolster blanks out, and then machining some real intricate handles and stuff, and then fitting them up. And talked about some different stuff there, getting stainless Damascus and stuff.
Y'all are right back in my wheelhouse, and I'm like I said, we're gonna have to have a conversation one of these days when y'all got an hour or 5, and we're not recording anything. So
we'll see. It's slightly off topic, but we've been wanting to hold an event, and if we come up with a way to mass produce a knife, we thought about holding an event and have a bunch of people come out and kind of make some knives and work with that equipment we come up with, tooling or something. So, we want to be able to hang out and talk to some of our customers for a day or two. We do some of these events that are 1 or 2 days long, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
That'd be cool.
Good job.
Well, gentlemen, if we don't have anything else, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off. I think we've covered a lot tonight. Really do appreciate you guys, Ameribrade, coming on and just laying it all out there. I think it's amazing. I'm really glad of what y'all are doing. Look forward to where y'all are going in the future.
Yep.
So I'm gonna say good night. Good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to this. Thank y'all for being with the Crafted Edge tonight, and we look forward to seeing y'all on the next episode.
Yeah, we'll see you boys next time.
We'll talk to you all soon.
Yep.
Thank you, man.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll cut off here. Hold on, don't sign off just yet.
Yeah,
we'll edit this out and
finish uploading.
Make sure I'm hitting the right buttons.